Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over another winter storm over portions of the northeastern United States. We're going to be going over how much snowfall you should be expecting, as well as when you should be expecting that snowfall or rainfall depending on where exactly you are. We're going to be giving you my personal snowfall forecast, and we're going to be looking at a couple of the models to see what they are showing for the storm, because it will be definitely one of the bigger snowstorms this year that we've seen already for portions of the interior northeast, and you might even see a little bit of mixing as you get further closer to the coast. So we're also going to be dealing with windy conditions over this time period and also colder conditions. Luckily, it looks to go to a milder pattern over the eastern United States over the next probably around 7 to 8 days. Maybe it goes back into another colder pattern, and I'll also be covering some more snowstorms during the week, which are going to be impacting parts of the western and central United States over the next few days. So we have a lot of stuff to cover in today's video, so let's get right into it. Let's start off with your current National Weather Service page. High wind watches are in effect in 4 parts of northwestern Montana. Air quality alerts in effect for Washington and California. We have some frost advisories for portions of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, with some freeze warnings in effect for parts of North Carolina. We have wind advisories for western upstate New York, as well as portions of the northeast, especially areas as you get closer to the coast. We already see some winter weather advisories in effect for portions of upstate New York, Vermont, even parts of western Massachusetts and northern Maine from this snowstorm. We also see some lakeshore flood advisories, as well as some, I believe, lake effect snow warnings in effect for portions of northern upstate New York. We're going to be dealing with a lot of lake effect snow, mainly because your winds are going to be coming out of the northwest and in some cases out of the west, and we're going to be dealing with those winds passing over the lakes, which are currently, the water temperatures over the lakes are currently right around 60 degrees in some areas, upper 50s for many areas. So they are very warm. The surrounding temperatures are below freezing, so once you get that warm air to rise a little bit, you can actually get some of that to move over portions of the of upstate New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and move through parts of the northeast and actually deliver quite a bit of snowfall. And we actually saw some lake effect earlier this morning. Now, here to be the European model, then we'll look at the NAM model, and then we'll look at the GFS model, and we'll also look at all the snowfall totals from those, and then we'll look at my personal forecast. So here would be right around 7 p.m. tonight, and we're looking at some heavier snow for portions of central and especially northern upstate New York. You have a little bit of mixing closer to the Great Lakes, and really what we're going to be dealing with is really as you get to right around Tuesday, early in the morning. That's the peak of this storm, I would say, for portions of New Hampshire, Vermont, and northern upstate New York. As you get into those lower elevations, as you get to portions of northwestern Vermont, northernmost parts of upstate New York, western New York, you're probably going to get into that rain because you won't be cold enough to support any snowfall. But as you get into some of those higher elevations and as you get further inland, you will probably be below 32 degrees, and you will most likely see actually some accumulating snowfall. And then as we get to right around 7 in the morning on tomorrow, so Tuesday, 7 in the morning, we're looking at quite a bit of snowfall for portions of Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, and now you're even starting to get a little bit of mixing as you get further to the south here. And I think your main period for mixing will be between 5 and 8 p.m. or 5 and 8 a.m. on tomorrow. So 5 and 8 a.m. Tuesday is probably going to be your best shot of any mixing as you get further to the coast, and really your mixing is going to be restrained to portions of central New England and portions of eastern upstate New York, so it's not going to get too far south. Here to be by Tuesday right around 1 p.m. and most of this is getting out of here, except it's still impacting portions of northern Vermont and New Hampshire, as well as southern Maine, with some snowfall in some cases, so some light scattered snowfall, but really it's nothing too big at this point. Now let's start talking about what the GFS is showing for this storm, and then we'll look at the NAM model for what it's showing. Now, here are to be your isobars, and these are these little lines that are going across the screen. This is indicating lines of pressure, and this is indicating when you have a lot of them pushed together, that shows that you have very large pressure gradient, which again would mean that you have very windy conditions. If you notice where these winds are coming from, they're coming straight due west or due northwest, and they're coming off the Great Lakes, and you will actually most likely see a little bit of lake effect move through these regions because of that. And you have wind gusts that could be closer to 30 or 40 miles per hour, and some cases near 50 miles per hour in terms of your gusts. So it's definitely a windy day for today. Here would be by 7 p.m. tonight, and then here would be by 1 in the morning today. And we're looking at portions of New Hampshire, Vermont, and northern upstate New York, especially in the Adirondacks, getting into some of that heavier snowfall, rain into the lower elevations. Then as we get to right around 7 in the morning on Tuesday, so tomorrow, we're looking at a low pressure forming off the Maine coast. So we would see a little surface low form off the Maine coast before impacting portions of Nova Scotia. That might briefly rev up the winds a little bit, especially over southeastern New England, but really it should stay right around 40 miles per hour as we go through the daytime hours tomorrow. And then as you start to get to, I would say probably 2, 3, 4 p.m., the winds should die down a little bit, and you are actually looking at a little bit of lake effect move through these areas. So some lake effect rain and snow could make it all the way down to the coast, and then you see some scattered snow showers for portions of northern New England just scattered about. Here would be the NAM 3cam model, and then we'll look at my forecast. The NAM 3cam model definitely is the highest resolution of all of them and also shows the most intense storm. Here would be by tonight right around 7 p.m. Tomorrow around 1 a.m. the heavy snowfall is moving through northern New England as well as the Adirondacks and upstate New York. We see a little bit of lake effect rain for portions of western upstate New York, but for the most part it's staying snowfall for many of these areas. And then here would be right around 7 in the morning, and we're looking at a little bit of streamers move through parts of the Northeast, and those are basically lines of lake effect that move off the Great Lakes and then kind of dip further to the southeast. That's known as a streamer band of snowfall, and those are making its way fairly far to the south. We see that low pressure redeveloping off the Maine coast, and then you start to see a little bit of wraparound snowfall on the northern side of that. Now here to be the snowfall totals for all of these. Here's the European models snowfall total, and we're looking at generally a coating for many of those areas in the gray. So for areas of the interior Northeast and northern New England, you're looking at probably a coating, but then as you get into those blues, that's 2 to 6 inches, and that's where you're getting a decent accumulating snowfall. And most of this will accumulate because it will be cold enough this time, and you've already had some snowfall or at least a couple of days where you've seen low temperatures below 32 degrees. That'll really set the ground up for some accumulating snowfall, and that'll really allow some of that snowfall to accumulate. Now here would be the GFS model and what it's showing, and the GFS model shows a fairly similar thing, except it doesn't show as much as wide of a storm, you could say, over portions of the interior Northeast. It really dies down those totals, and for example, you wouldn't see a coating of snowfall for western upstate New York, northern New England, or portions of coastal or northern Pennsylvania or parts of coastal New England either. You wouldn't see any of those dustings for those regions. Now here would be the NAM 3cam model, and what it's showing over many of the higher elevation regions, maybe close to 6 to 10 inches. Mount Washington, it's showing 28 inches of snowfall. So some of those higher elevation regions could definitely see quite a bit of snowfall, and I think this is fairly accurate in terms of the elevation difference, and I think this is actually a fairly good model run to use. We're also looking at 2 to 6 inches as you get further to the north in upstate New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire there, and also for parts of eastern Maine. You guys are looking at quite a bit of snowfall as well. Now here's my personal snowfall. Here would be by today, in just a couple of hours from when I'm making this video, right around 3 p.m. today. We're looking at some general lake effect rain and snowfall for upstate New York, with a little bit of snowfall for portions of northern Maine. Then as we get to 6 p.m. tonight, we're looking at some heavy to moderate snowfall for portions of western and especially central upstate New York. And then you see a little bit of that lighter snowfall on either side of there, and then to the west of there, you're looking at some rainfall, a little bit of that a little bit of that snowfall still up there for northern Maine. 9 p.m. tonight, but we're looking at that heavy snowfall still moving through parts of upstate New York. Much of that snowfall is set up to the east, much of the rain set up to the west, and especially in those higher elevation regions, you can pump out maybe a good inch or two per hour in some regions. Then as we get to 12 a.m., the snowfall really starts to set up for portions of eastern upstate New York, and as we get into central Vermont, central New Hampshire, that's where you're getting into some very good snowfall and a little band of rainfall or snowfall, depending on exactly where you are, is setting up for portions of northern upstate New York, kind of like this. And we've seen this depicted on many models. That won't be this snowfall won't be all from the system. It'll actually be lake effect enhanced, and some of that lake effect snowfall will actually enhance this snowfall for portions of upstate New York and Vermont, and that will actually lead to most likely some higher totals throughout this area, according to many localized model indications that we've been getting. Now here would be by Tuesday or tomorrow at around 3 a.m., and we're looking at portions of central New England getting into some of that snowfall, lighter snowfall as you head further north, rainfall further to the south over portions of upstate New York and northern Pennsylvania. And then as we get to around 6 a.m. tomorrow, most of that snowfall is tapering off. You don't see too much, and mainly even though a lot of the northeast is in that light blue, so that would be your lightest snowfall, that's really just to indicate that there could be lake effect within any of these regions, and just because of how localized lake effect is, we can't really pinpoint it. So if you do get into a band of lake effect, you could definitely get into some heavier bands. I'm just putting it in the lightest blue because we don't really know exactly where that band will set up. Now here would be my snowfall forecast for the storm. And this is going from today all the way until tomorrow, and this is really cutting off right around noontime tomorrow when most of the precipitation should be out of here. Under an inch for many of these regions for northwestern Pennsylvania, much of upstate New York, except for the Hudson River Valley. And then as you get to portions of northwestern Connecticut, western Massachusetts, much of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, that's where I'm looking at maybe a coating to an inch in some areas. And then 1 to 3 inches, this is an inch plus for many of these regions for portions of eastern Maine, northwestern Maine, parts of northern New Hampshire, much of eastern and northern Vermont, and then portions of parts of the higher elevations in the Catskills and Adirondacks of upstate New York. And then 3 to 6 inches for portions of the Adirondacks, the Green and White Mountains, as well as some portions of eastern Maine, where you could get into some bands from a system that's out in eastern Canada, as well as some enhanced snowfall from when that system redevelops off the Maine coastline. And then 6 to 12 inches for some areas, and it would be 12 plus inches, maybe closer to 2 feet for portions of Mount Washington and the higher elevations of the White Mountains. As you get into the Green Mountains in Vermont, you're probably looking at right around 6 to 8 inches, and again probably closer to 10 inches in some areas of the central Adirondacks in upstate New York. So hopefully that does help you guys with any of your forecasting needs. So this is going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope you guys all did enjoy it. If you did, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.